In 2017, you wrote a BuzzFeed article titled
Oh,
"A Definitive titled a definitive ranking of Madonna albums."
Oh God,
Now,
did I?
you did.
Let me look at this. Let me look at this now and see if I still agree with it. Because
This is what I want to. Yeah, this is what I want to talk to you about. Whether you still stand by this.
Okay, so let me tell you something about working at BuzzFeed. You were there, and you really sort of come in the morning, and it's like, okay, you got 3-4 things to write today. So I was constantly churning out things, and I feel like every day I'd be like, okay, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And then you just write some shit. And so I'm going to look at this and see if I agree with it or if it was just like, I'm writing to write.
Well, you have, as you're pulling it up.
Okay, MDNA at the end, that makes perfect sense. That's an awful album.
I fully agree with that call.
You know what? Hard Candy is too low. I love Hard Candy. I think I love it in retrospect. I think it's a really fun, I think it's a really great album. I think it has great Timbaland and Pharrell production. I think in 2008, the problem with that album was we had just had sort of them dominating music. And when that came out,
it just sounded copycat.
Yeah, it sounded copycat. Didn't sound innovative, for Madonna, who was always being innovative with her sounds. But with so much time having passed since then, almost 20 years, like 15 years or so have passed since then, you don't remember, the how you felt immediately then anymore. I mean, I do remember complaining with friends about it, so I guess I do remember, but it's that sort of time and those other albums sort of wash away, and now it just feels like a part of the time period, and in that respect, it sounds great for an album that is that old because a lot of the songs still sound sonically current.
Devil Wouldn't Recognize You and Voices.
Amazing.
Those are the two best songs on the album, like in my opinion. I know Madonna's obsessed with Candy Shop. She performs on every single tour. Now, you had Rebel at the time.
I'm fixing this right now. First of all, Ray of Light is nowhere near my favorite album by Madonna, and I don't even know why I put that at the top.
Your your top 3, Bedtime Stories was at number 3, Confessions number 2, and Ray of Light was number 1. What would be your top 3 today?
Bedtime Stories is my number 1, period. And 2 is Confessions. 2 is Confessions, and I think that Like a Prayer, Erotica, Madonna. Okay, these all fit except for 7, Rebel Heart. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I think it had just come out too, and I liked it. But I would put Rebel Heart down there above MDNA at 15, and then I would put I would stick Hard Candy at I would actually stick Hard Candy probably where Rebel Heart is for me personally.
Like, I couldn't believe at the time you had Rebel Heart above True Blue and the I'm Breathless soundtrack.
Yeah, I was also probably trying to create controversy. It was BuzzFeed. Yeah, the article is not going to go far unless you have people fighting. So sometimes when I would make a ranking, fake journalism here. Sometimes when I make a rating, you make it a little messy so people would be angry and share it.
Now, talking about messy, I wanted to talk about 2 of what I consider your seminal Keep It interviews.
Oh, wow.
One is very recent. Patti LuPone.
Oh, iconic interview.
Just saw her at the Ice Palace, which was unbelievable. Yes. What was it like? Were you with her or was that done remotely?
It was done remotely. She was in the dressing room at The View, which is very iconic, like on Zoom. And she was, I don't know, when you interview a legend who's legendary, you sort of are always sort of, we're always sort of like a little nervous. We're like, are they going to be great, meeting your heroes? And we're also like, are they going to like our questions? We're going to have a good rapport, etc. Because, we've met some legends, who like, we didn't have like a great rapport or like you just sit right into basic interview questions. But this was, Patty's always going to give you Patty, and we got it.
When she was talking about the bad behavior of audience members, she talked
Mm-hmm.
about one guy who jumped on stage to plug in his phone because he saw an
Yeah.
outlet.
Yeah. Insane. I can't even imagine doing that. Or seeing it, witnessing it.
I would love to witness it.
Yeah.
And Patti was definitely being Patti. And your other seminal interview that we need to talk about was you interviewed Bethany when her podcast first launched.
Whew. Bethany Frankel. Let me tell you something about Bethany Frankel. A lunatic. A lunatic. She was really just talking about a minute. She was very all over the place. And I think my friend Danny Pellegrino had just interviewed her recently too. And it was an equally crazy one. That was the beginning of Bethany turning into what Bethany is now. I feel like she still sort of had this allure of, she's like, I tell it like it is. And even though she said sometimes, shitty things, like it would be like, okay, she's still speaking her mind. She's still thinking critically about things, etc. But I feel around the time her HBO Max show, The Big Shot, came out,
Iconic.
It's just been a slow descent into madness. And now the Beth that we have now is sort of like the Joker, right?
Well, yours was one of the interviews. I think both you and Danny were subjected to the whole, I don't even know what a podcast is. And now I'm with Hillary Clinton. I've got the #1 podcast in the world. That was the beginning of her, much like with the interview with Raquel. I don't know who you are. I've never watched Vanderpump Rules, but here we are. And now we have the #1 interview worldwide.
Right. Yeah. I know it's very Larry King-esque. Larry King used to do that thing where he didn't research any of the people that he would interview, but for somehow she's more proud of it. I don't know who you are. Let's talk.
It's so unprofessional.
Yeah.
To not do a lick of research, it's wildly unprofessional.
Well, it's also unprofessional to not do a look of research when you're talking about a union and like having this woman join your fight for reality workers' rights, and you don't even know what happened to her on the show because you haven't watched it.
Do you think that there will be, like in 5 years from now, is Bethany's legacy will she succeed in having her legacy be the creation of this union?
No. If it happens, it'll happen because someone else with some common sense has spearheaded it. But, if you shoot an arrow into the sky and it goes far, what was that quote from Paris is Burning?
I love that. Am I wrong, or you share a birthday with Elizabeth Berkley?
I do share a birthday with Elizabeth Berkley.
I'm a Leo as well. I'm a July Leo.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. I have a whole thing. I've done a whole deep dive on Showgirls, and like I've interviewed Gina Gershon about Showgirls, and so
wow.
I love
Okay.
it. Yeah.
I have lower back problems, and I sort of from this car crash like a few years ago, and I had to have a sort of like a cortisone injection in my spine a few years ago, and the doctor who gave me the cortisone injection was Elizabeth Berkley's brother.
Was it like Dr. Berkley?
Dr. Berkley.
You were like, any
Dr.
relation?
Berkley. No, he asked me what I did first because it's LA, right? He asked me what I did first, and I was like, "Oh, I did TV and stuff." He was like, "Oh, my sister works in the industry." I'm like, "Oh, Elizabeth Berkley." At the time, she was doing the Saved by the Bell reboot, which I had a couple friends working on. So I mentioned that, and I mentioned, we actually have the same birthday. So,
did you enjoy that? Did he like that?
Yeah.
That you knew. So the piece that I was referencing before, this is actually maybe my favorite piece in your newsletter.
Well, thank you.
You wrote the title is sort of in here. You wrote, "Romance is alive and well in New York, but it's friends who wine and dine one another, go on trips together, care for each other in a way that our community has always cared for one another." And I have had this experience in recent years. Like I was in an 8.5 year relationship that ended like right before COVID, and my travel companions have been friends that I've made actually post-COVID, new friends that I have made. And it rang so true. And just you're sort of, do you want to kind of like paint, like maybe expand on that? And also like the image that you conjure up is like you're sort of on a date with your friend in this like pre-Valentine's Day situation and your observations.
Yes. It's interesting you brought that one up because I was recently thinking about that in a newer one just because I was thinking about Sex and the City versus And Just Like That, right? And I think that one of the great joys of Sex and the City was that even though they were, looking for a man, looking for love, etc., and, Charlotte did get married, Miranda did get married within the series, the romance always seemed to go back to the women, And I feel like right up until the end, when Big comes and saves her in Paris, you sort of had that, I really do sort of wish that her friends had come to save her in Paris, instead of Big, instead of a man. The real romance of the story had sort of been fulfilled, and now you have And Just Like That, which is sort of about everyone being sad and the relationships falling apart and the friends feel very disconnected. And I mean, that show's a mess anyway, but I'm also addicted to it like we all are. But I think the city is just really a place where, you feel that. You feel this connection with your friends. You go on trips with your friends. And even me, I have friends who are in romantic relationships, friends who are married now, and friends that I've made here recently, friends that I've had for a long time, but you still maintain that friendship with either one or both of them. And, traveling with your friends just really feels like something that fulfills you. I don't know, there was this report that I read recently about, sort of like married people tend to be happy in the sense that, life is about finding a friend to be with and, like share all your secrets with and travel with and like go through this life's journey with. And people who tend to get married are people who have found that person. And so they say happy, etc. And I think that, just finding your people in general and finding a place to go, and Fire Island is a place that can represent that, I mean, I think some people stay on that island too damn long. Not the people who live there. The people who sort of live there or have a space there have carved out a community there. But, I mean, like, I feel like there's a lot of people in New York who's just sort of there constantly. And I'm always sort of wondering, like, what they might personally be getting out of it besides just, here's a travel vacation and we're around other gay people, and it just feels almost like a party every other weekend or something,
When you say
not to judge other people.
No, this is a fascinating conversation. This is you just brought up a fascinating strand, which is you said people who stay on the island way too long. Do you mean actually? Because I think like Louis Vuittel even stayed there. I think he was there for like a very long time. But do you mean within a single? Do you mean within a single stretch, or like continually going back?
I mean, continually going back, I mean, even listen, 5 times was a lot of time for me to be out there.
You basically did a quarter share.
Yeah, but 5 times was, and I think that was fine, but there are some people, I mean, like, you get there Thursday, and then they're still there the next Thursday, and maybe even the next weekend, and it's, and there's no purpose of, like, creating art or, like, like, staying at a house with your friends or something. It's just sort of, like, going from party to party. It feels like you can sort of, like, replicate what you're just doing in New York there. And I think it's just coming from me as getting older, too, the idea of, listen, I like having a nice getaway and I like being on the island. But like you said, it can be populated with a lot of white dudes, and I just sort of feel like at a certain time, I'm there and I have the serenity of my friendships in the house, and you go out and you have a fun time at a party and everything. But every time like a Monday or Tuesday rolls around, you're sort of feeling like, okay, now it's time to leave the woods.
Yeah. Well, can I tell you, I think Monday is the best night to be on Fire Island.
I love it. I love Monday night. Monday at tea is lovely because, people have left on Sunday or Monday morning, and there's just sort of like the last people there. I love the dinner that you make on Monday night at the house, or this past time, I made a reservation for my house for everyone who was left there to go to Top of the Bay, and we went there, and that was my first time dining in
How was
Cherry
it?
Grove. Besides Cherries, I wouldn't really call that dining. I do like going Sunday night to see The Assassins sometimes, but
The best.
yes, the best. But Monday night dining there, I was like, oh, this food is good. It's no canteen food for sure. That was really good food, and there it felt a bit more diverse. You know, seeing women there, seeing women of color there, and I mean, like Wanda Sykes was there with her partner too. So
Every single time I'm in Cherry Grove, she's there. In fact, I saw a show. I saw this legendary 90-year-old drag queen drag performer who's part of the series, Bob Rose Levine. He's an icon. He arrived in 1955 and he's still there. He performed like a week and a half ago when I was there. Wanda Sykes in the front row.
love that. I love that. Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously, I don't know everyone's experience. So I mean, just for me personally, there's the time to be in, like Sondheim said, there's a time to be in the woods, there's a time to leave the woods, and I enjoy my times on the pines. But there have been times where I feel like I'm spending a bit too much time here. Let me get off, But for the most part, I really do love the island, and I wouldn't have come back 5 times. Without the friends that I have, and also, brought up my book, the manuscript. It's also why I love the island too, because I've tried to. My first thing when I sold the book was like, I'm gonna go to Amsterdam and write my book, and I went there for a few months, had an apartment there, and didn't really work out because I was running out of money. And so I came back and took this job on a CBS TV show, which brought me back to LA. And that is what really pushed me to be like, oh no, I don't want to be back here. I want to be back in New York. And so I came back to New York, and what actually happened was this year, and a bit of last summer too, 4th of July, was a great time for me to write. And I think that during the day, because, a lot of my friends have jobs too, and they're working from home on the island, it really gave me a lot of peaceful time in the morning and during the afternoon before tea to really get the bulk of my book done. I would actually say that 60% of this manuscript was written on Fire Island.
Is there a chapter, like, do you have a Fire Island chapter in the book at all?
No, unfortunately, because the book is about my adolescence. It's about the pop culture of the 90s and the early 2000s. It's told through my experience of growing up Black and gay in Milwaukee. So it goes up through high school up to when I come out freshman year of college. So nothing in my current life is in the book, which is always fun to say to a friend when they're like, oh, am I in it? And I'm like, absolutely not. Did I know you in 2000? Did I know you before 2005? If I did not, you're not in the book.
Now, speaking of things before 2005, I need to ask you about your star turn on the 2nd season of You.
Oh, not that.
What'd you say?
Not that.
I was obsessed with the first 2 seasons. And quite frankly, I mean, I don't know. I have friends who still watch it, but I really felt even that is it me, or was just the first season brilliant and then it was terrible after that?
Oh, I still love it. I think it's really fun. Last season was a little wacky for me, but I really liked how it ended. I thought season 4 was really great, but I would say that
was season 4 the one in London,
the suburbs.
Oh, the suburbs. Okay.
Yeah, season 5 is London.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Well, so I sold a TV show called Canceled that I wrote with my friend Julian Brees, and Berlanti was producing it, and Berlanti knew how much I loved You, and so Berlanti connected me with Sarah Gamble, the creator of You, and was like, we have this role for you if you want to do it. And I was like, absolutely. And, the role got me in SAG, and sometimes I still get a little tiny check from doing that, so it's fun. It is hard to look at now, Just
Why?
now, it's hard to look at now for vanity reasons. That's before I got my personal trainer, and so I look back at it and I'm like, oh, okay. There's IRA and a few pounds, but otherwise, it is a very funny scene. I don't really think about it. Sometimes people will tweet it at me, and I look at it, but I'm like, okay, I don't want to actually look at this scene and look at myself on camera. So I give it a nice little heart, and I keep it moving.
Now, I also know when you, in your early days in what year did you move to LA?
2011.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, still somewhat recently. In those early days, you worked at a coffee shop, much like other struggling writers. You're Perez Hilton in your own right. And, and this story of, like, I know that you grew up on Buffy and that was also very formative to you. The story of meeting Sarah Michelle Gellar at the coffee shop where you were a barista.
Oh, helping her with her Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Yeah, can you walk me through this? And then your later run-in, I think you later had a second run-in with her at BuzzFeed, because I'm a big Buffy fan as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, walk me through this.
Okay. Oh my God, you know everything. I'm like, I put all this on the internet. I'm always amazed at the amount of stories and things that I've thrown out there that are still on the internet that I've completely forgotten. Like when I record Keep It, I don't remember anything that I've said. So, but I was working at this place, I believe it's Coffee Commissary in Burbank. And I used to have to work the morning shift, which was very annoying because I'm not a morning person. And I didn't have a car then at that point in LA. And so to get there, I'd take the bus. And this is certainly pre-Uber too, so you're taking taxis. But I took the bus there, and the bus that I would have to take would get me there sort of 40 minutes before the shop even opens up. So that was a very trying time in my life, getting there early and then reading a book outside, waiting for someone to show up to let me in. But I was just working one day, and I think it was when she was making the show with Robin Williams on CBS, and she came in and just walked over to me with her iPad and said, "Hi, could you help me log onto the Wi-Fi?" And I was like, "Oh, Sarah Michelle Gellar." And I helped her with the Wi-Fi, and I did not ask her anything about Buffy. A few years later, when she knew I was a Buffy fan because I was wearing a Buffy shirt when she came into BuzzFeed. But the Buffy shirt I was wearing was a Buffy the movie shirt. So she was like, "That's not me on there."
Oh, with Luke Perry and
with Christy Swanson.
Swanson, yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you had the movie T-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, I stand. So I love the movie. And also, that was even a weird I didn't bring up Buffy to her or be like, I'm a big fan, because that was also a weird era of her career. That was sort of before, she was still doing that Robin Williams show. She was still trying to do Ringer, other things. I think that was during a period where she was really trying to distance herself from Buffy, and she didn't really want to talk about Buffy in interviews, etc. I remember she was doing an interview for BuzzFeed, but it was for the parent section at the time. So I think they were only even going to ask one Buffy question. That's why she didn't interview the entertainment section. Now she, is perfectly happy with her legacy and talking about Buffy a lot more. But I think if BuzzFeed did one thing, I think bringing nostalgia back around in television has sort of helped a lot of people realize that their legacies are important, and they do talk about them a lot. But pre-streaming though, where Buffy was still available, pre-streaming where Buffy wasn't really available except you had DVDs or something, and like a show like Friends, etc. Right? Actors did not want to be associated with their one major role because that could be limiting when you're going out to be cast in other things, and you'd be typecast, etc.
Well, yeah, that's part of the whole Kim Cattrall situation. I think that's a piece of it. I think that's maybe a small piece in a bigger puzzle for her.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you just came off a trifecta of Beyonce Renaissance tours.
I did.
Renaissance concerts. Which was the best city of the three you saw?
Los Angeles, hands down.
Because Diana Ross and
Diana Ross, but also just the energy of the LA audience, of an American audience, the fans. I was in Club Renaissance this time too. It was great. It was great, running into friends, people I knew who were visiting, people who lived in LA, etc. Like just all in the stadium, running into them as you're, grabbing a drink or like walking to your seat. Like that was so much fun. So I really enjoyed that. But Juneteenth was really fun in Amsterdam as well, because I traveled with friends, like some of the friends I go to Fire Island with. We traveled and ran into some other New York friends who I didn't even know were there, and then met this lovely like woman who's like a doctor in New York City, and we've become friends, and she had flown there with her friends. Like it was just like finding other people who had flown there from your city. So that was also great and communal too.
I love that. Where do you think Renaissance fit? If we were going to do the definitive ranking of Beyonce albums, what would be in your top 3?
Oh, that's the top.
Renaissance, still.
Renaissance is the top. Yeah, Renaissance is the top. 4 is second. 4 is second. And then B-Day is third. Okay.
And in addition to appearing on You also appeared on Wendy Williams pre-pandemic.
I did. It's so sad. It's a little very bittersweet. I did that show, had a great time, and Wendy whispers in my ear, like, as the ending, like I have like someone, there's a live video I have of someone had taken a photo, and it was a live photo. And so when you press it, when you press a live photo, you can hear the sound. It was her telling me, "Oh, you're coming back. You're coming back. I love you." And then that was truly, what was that? Late January 2020, and then the pandemic happens right after, and then Wendy, the show is no more. So I'm grateful that I was able to appear on that show before it ended.
I mean, do we know what the status is with Wendy? Like, I know there were talks that maybe she was going to create a podcast. Yeah, I'm a Wendy fan from the radio. Mm-hmm. Like, I was always a big talk radio person. Like, huge Howard fan. I know that you actually weren't a big radio listener or talk radio person. You were
not
more
really. I mean, I listened to V100 in Milwaukee, and sometimes Tom Joyner. But I would listen to those on my way home. On my way to school, but I wasn't a person who, when I got home, I wouldn't listen to those. Like, I'd be listening to music, So it's also, I think, why I'm not a big podcast person, even though I have one. I would rather be listening to music in my ears, Not even a big, like, I love Mariah Carey's audiobook too, but even hearing like a story or something, listening to it, it reminds me of when my grandmother, I guess, would just listen to her old Perot mysteries or something in the car. For me, I'd rather be reading the book, or I'd rather be listening to music, So I'm always surprised when people listen to me talk.
No, actually, no. On that, do you get recognized for your voice? Like, do people like hear you and they're like, "Oh, you're Ira Madison"?
Yeah.
And like, what is their most common thing they say?
It's usually like recognizing my laugh or something. But people do recognize my voice. I think before every podcast became visual, I would like I've been at a coffee shop a couple times and order something, and someone would be like, "Wait, I know your voice. I was just listening to it." So something like that, I think hearing someone's voice and hearing a distinctive voice is always something you'll recognize. Although my voice doesn't really sound distinctive to me. I don't know if people's voices sound, how they sound to themselves. They always sound different to other people than you sound when you hear yourself, which, I don't know, science, something to do with.
You make a good point. Like, what do you make of podcasting suddenly becoming now a visual medium?
I mean, people like videos. People like to watch. I mean, people have always, it just goes back to wanting to watch a talk show or something like that. I think there's always going to be, it's sort of reminding like radio into TV, it's like now it's podcast back into video. It's, there's always, things are cyclical.
I mean, Howard originated this with like the E! Show, and then he did Howard TV. Like, his was always filmed, starting in the 90s. So I think maybe it's not such a surprise, but I think it's a surprise that people is interested in seeing people who are not Howard Stern
Yeah.
at the height of his fame, record, like talk.
Mm-hmm. It's fun. I like doing it for now. Is it something I want to do forever? No. I like sharing my pop culture opinions in various forums, but I would like to get to the point of just writing about them again. Even though it's interesting, that's cyclical for me, right? I liked doing the podcast because I was tired of writing every day for outlets and having to churn out like a news story every day. But now I've loved the opportunity to sort of write what I want, and the idea of talking about something each week is sort of fun. But it's sort of like sometimes you want a little time off from that too. Very much what Gabby Hoffman said in that Guardian interview yesterday or something. I like my job. I just don't want to do it that often. So
how did you and Louis Vertel meet? Like, were you friends before Keep It, or were you
we met in Los
up?
Angeles. In Los Angeles when I moved there, like at some party talking about pop culture. So we've known each other like the entirety of me living there.
And like the Keep It segment, or even like the title of the show, and then also the segment, like did this start as like a Twitter hashtag? Like,
it did. It started me, saying Keep It on Twitter. And then it just, when I was developing a podcast, I was like, well, I got to call it Keep It. So, because people used to tag me when they would say Keep It to things, That seems like such a quaint time now, thinking about that era of like 2015 through like when the podcast started? Yeah, like 2015 to 2018 when people used to do that. So, yeah, that's how it started.
I was a little offended by Lewis's Keep It to the Samantha return.
Oh, I mean, I hated that return. I thought it was bad. See, like, I thought it was just like, she's like in front of this green screen. It didn't really have any relevance with the show. I didn't like it either. I was happy to see her, but, I didn't really like it.
Wow. So what would you have wanted, given the fact that she was not going to film with anybody?
I mean, she should have been the one at the end, like throwing the rocks at her window or something. Like, even if she wasn't going to film with her, you could have filmed that in a way like she fills it, and then, like, she looks out the window, and then, like, it ends on her friend, instead of Aiden. But the show's not interested in friendships.
Ira Madison. I love you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you. This was lovely. It was lovely to hear about these things that I do not remember saying. See, that's why I talk too much. That's why I need to get off the air. I think when the book tour, we'll see what happens when the book tour comes.
Well, you're going to have to record the audiobook, so.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very much looking forward to recording the audiobook. So people keep writing like in the comments, like, there better be the audiobook. I'm like, imagine me not doing the audiobook. I sold the book on the fact that I host a podcast about pop culture. So they're very much going to want me to record a.
Tell me the title one more time.
Pure Innocent Fun.
Does that tie back to a specific story?
No, it's a NENE quote. Come on, Bravo.
Oh, shit.
It's just unfortunate that people could change something that's just pure innocent fun into drama. And she said that about her making fun of Kim's voice in a limo in season 1 and Kim hearing about it. And she's like, I was just joking. It was pure innocent fun.
Shame on me. I'm humiliated and embarrassed.
And
one more, when does it come out? Remind me.
June 2024 is the tentative release date. Tentatively June 25th, 2024. So it'll be a big Pride Week for me in New York. This
was great. Thank you so much. I've loved talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. No, I really appreciate it. The questions and everything too. It was very nice to be like, oh wait, you have questions about things that I've said and written.
Yes, I'm no Bethany. I'm no Bethany Frankel.
No Bethany Frankel up in here.